Meditations, or Things to Oneself, by Marcus Aurelius Antoninus Augustus, Book 3. 1. The daily wearing away of life, with its ever-shrinking remainder, is not the only thing we have to consider. For even if a man's years be prolonged, we must still take into account that it is doubtful whether his mind will continue to retain its capacity for the understanding of business or for the contemplative effort needed to apprehend things divine and human. The onset of senility may involve no loss of respiratory or alimentary powers, or of sensations, impulses, and so forth. Nevertheless, the ability to make full use of his faculties, to assess correctly the demands of duty, to coordinate all the diverse problems that arise, to judge if the time has come to end his days on earth, or to make any other of the decisions that require the exercise of a practiced intellect, is already on the wane. We must press on then in haste, not simply because every hour brings us nearer to death, but because even before then our powers of perception and comprehension begin to deteriorate. Another thing we should remark is the grace and fascination that there is even in the incidentals of nature's processes. When a loaf of bread, for instance, is in the oven, cracks appear in it here and there, and these flaws, though not intended in the baking, have a rightness of their own, and sharpen the appetite. Figs, again at their ripest, will also crack open. When olives are on the verge of falling, the very imminence of decay adds its peculiar beauty to the fruit. So too the drooping head of a cornstalk, the wrinkling skin when a lion scowls, the drip of foam from a wild boar's jaws, and many more such sights are far from beautiful if looked at by themselves. Yet as the consequences of some other process of nature, they make their own contribution to its charm and attractiveness. 2. Thus, to a man of sensitiveness and sufficiently deep insight into the workings of the universe, almost everything, even if it be no more than a byproduct of something else, seems to add its meed of extra pleasure. Such a man will view the grinning jaws of real lions and tigers as admiringly as he would an artist's or sculptor's imitation of them. And the eye of discretion will enable him to see the mature charm that belongs to men and women in old age, as well as the seductive bloom that is youth's. Things of this sort will not appeal to everyone. He alone who has cultivated a real intimacy with nature and her works will be struck by them. 3. Hippocrates cured the ills of many, but himself took ill and died. The Chaldeans foretold the deaths of many, but fate caught up with them also. Alexander, Pompey, and Julius Caesar laid waste whole cities time and again, and cut down many thousands of horse and foot in battle, but the hour came when they too passed away. Heraclitus speculated endlessly on the consumption of the universe by fire, but in the end it was water that saturated his body, and he died in a dung plaster. Democritus was destroyed by vermin, Socrates by vermin of another kind. And the moral of it all? This: you embark, you make the voyage, you reach port, step ashore then. Into another life? There are gods everywhere, even yonder. Into final insensibility? Then you will be out of the grip of pains and pleasures, and thrall no longer to this earthen vessel, so immeasurably meaner than its attendant minister. For the one is a mind and a divinity, the other but clay and corruption. 4. Do not waste what remains of your life in speculating about your neighbors, unless with a view to some mutual benefit. To wonder what so-and-so is doing and why, or what he is saying or thinking or scheming, in a word, anything that distracts you from fidelity to the ruler within you, means a loss of opportunity for some other task. See then that the flow of your thoughts is kept free from idle or random fancies, particularly those of an inquisitive or uncharitable nature. A man should habituate himself to such a way of thinking that if suddenly asked, "What is in your mind at this minute?" he could respond frankly and without hesitation, thus proving that all his thoughts were simple and kindly, as becomes a social being with no taste for the pleasures of sensual imaginings, jealousies, envies, suspicions, or any other sentiments that he would blush to acknowledge in himself. Such a man, determined here and now to aspire to the heights, is indeed a priest and minister of the gods, for he is making full use of that indwelling power which can keep a man unsullied by pleasures, proof against pain, untouched by insult, and impervious to evil. He is a competitor in the greatest of all contests, the struggle against passion's mastery. He is imbued through and through with uprightness, welcoming wholeheartedly whatever falls to his lot, and rarely asking himself what others may be saying or doing or thinking, except when the public interest requires it. He confines his operations to his own concerns, having his attention fixed on his own particular thread of the universal web, seeing to it that his actions are honorable, and convinced that what befalls him must be for the best, for his own directing fate is itself under a higher direction. He does not forget the brotherhood of all rational beings, nor that a concern for every man is proper to humanity, and he knows that it is not the world's opinions he should follow, but only those of men whose lives confessedly accord with nature. As for others whose lives are not so ordered, he reminds himself constantly of the characters they exhibit daily and nightly at home and abroad, and of the sort of society they frequent. And the approval of such men, who do not even stand well in their own eyes, has no value for him. 5. In your actions let there be a willing promptitude, yet a regard for the common interest, due deliberation, yet no irresolution, and in your sentiments no pretentious over-refinement. Avoid talkativeness, avoid officiousness. The God within you should preside over a being who is virile and mature, a statesman, a Roman, and a ruler, one who has held his ground like a soldier waiting for the signal to retire from life's battlefield and ready to welcome his relief, a man whose credit need neither be sworn to by himself nor avouched by others. Therein is the secret of cheerfulness, of depending on no help from without and needing to crave from no man the boon of tranquility. We have to stand upright ourselves, not be set up. 6. If mortal life can offer you anything better than justice and truth, self-control and courage, that is, peace of mind in the evident conformity of your actions to the laws of reason, and peace of mind under the visitations of a destiny you cannot control. If, I say, you can discern any higher ideal, why, turn to it with your whole soul, and rejoice in the prize you have found. But if nothing seems to you better than the deity which dwells within you, directing each impulse, weighing each impression, abjuring, in the Socratic phrase, the temptations of the flesh, and avowing allegiance to the gods and compassion for mankind, if you find all else to be mean and worthless in comparison, then leave yourself no room for any rival pursuits. For if you once falter and turn aside, you will no longer be able to give unswerving loyalty to this ideal you have chosen for your own. No ambitions of a different nature can contest the title to goodness which belongs to reason and civic duty. Not the world's applause, nor power, nor wealth, nor the enjoyment of pleasure. For a while there may seem to be no incongruity in these things, but very quickly they get the upper hand and sweep a man off his balance. Do you then, I would say, simply and spontaneously make your choice of the highest and cleave to that? But what is best for myself is the highest, you say. If it is best for you as a reasonable being, hold fast to it. But if as an animal merely, then say so outright and maintain your view with becoming humility. Only be very sure that you have probed the matter aright. 7. Never value the advantages derived from anything involving breach of faith, loss of self-respect, hatred, suspicion, or execration of others, insincerity, or the desire for something which has to be veiled and curtained. One whose chief regard is for his own mind and for the divinity within him and the service of its goodness will strike no poses, utter no complaints, and crave neither for solitude nor yet for a crowd. Best of all, his life will be free from continual pursuings and avoidings. He does not care whether his soul in its mortal frame shall be his to possess for a longer or a shorter term of years. This very moment, if it be the hour for his departure, he will step forth as readily as he performs any other act that can be done in self-respecting and orderly fashion. No other care has he in life but to keep his mind from straying into paths incompatible with those of an intelligent and social being. 8. In a mind that is disciplined and purified there is no taint of corruption, no unclean spot, nor festering sore. Such a man's life fate can never snatch away unfulfilled, as it were an actor walking off in mid-performance before the play is finished. There is nothing of the lackey in him, yet nothing of the coxcomb. He neither leans on others nor holds aloof from them, and he remains answerable to no man, yet guiltless of all evasion. 9. Treat with respect the power you have to form an opinion. By it alone can the helmsman within you avoid forming opinions that are at variance with nature and with the constitution of a reasonable being. From it you may look to attain circumspection, good relations with your fellow men, and conformity with the will of heaven. 10. Letting go all else, cling to the following few truths. Remember that man lives only in the present, in this fleeting instant. All the rest of his life is either past and gone or not yet revealed. This mortal life is a little thing, lived in a little corner of the earth, and little too is the longest fame to come, dependent as it is on a succession of fast-perishing little men who have no knowledge even of their own selves, much less of one long dead and gone. 11. To these maxims add yet another. When an object presents itself to your perception, make a mental definition or at least an outline of it, so as to discern its essential character, to pierce beyond its separate attributes to a distinct view of the naked whole, and to identify for yourself both the object itself and the elements of which it is composed, and into which it will again be resolved. Nothing so enlarges the mind as this ability to examine methodically and accurately every one of life's experiences, with an eye to determining its classification, the ends it serves, its worth to the universe, and its worth to men as the members of that supreme city in which all other cities are as households. Take, for example, the thing which is producing its impression upon me at this moment. What is it? Whereof is it composed? How long is it designed to last? What moral response does it ask of me? Gentleness, fortitude, candor, good faith, sincerity, self-reliance, or some other quality? In every instance, learn to say, "This comes from God," or "This is one of fate's dispensations, a strand in the complex web, a conjunction of fortuities," or again, "This is the work of a man who is of the same stock and breed and brotherhood as I am, but is ignorant of what nature requires of him. I myself, however, can plead no such ignorance, and therefore, in accordance with nature's law of brotherhood, I am to deal amiably and fairly with him, though at the same time, if there be no question of good or evil involved, I must aim my shafts at the proper merits of the case. 12. If you do the task before you always adhering to strict reason with zeal and energy and yet with humanity, disregarding all lesser ends and keeping the divinity within you pure and upright, as though you were even now faced with its recall. If you hold steadily to this, staying for nothing and shrinking from nothing, only seeking in each passing action a conformity with nature and in each word and utterance a fearless truthfulness, then shall the good life be yours. And from this course no man has the power to hold you back. 13. As surgeons keep their lancets and scalpels always at hand for the sudden demands of their craft, so keep your principles constantly in readiness for the understanding of things both human and divine, never in the most trivial action forgetting how intimately the two are related, for nothing human can be done aright without reference to the divine and conversely. 14. Mislead yourself no longer. You will never read these notebooks again now, nor the annals of bygone Romans and Greeks, nor that choice selection of writings you have put by for your old age. Press on then to the finish, cast away vain hopes, and if you have any regard at all for self, see to your own security while still you may. 15. They do not know all that is signified by such words as stealing, sowing, purchasing, being at peace, seeing one's duty. This needs a different vision from the eyes. 16. Body, soul, and mind. The body for sensation, the soul for the springs of action, the mind for principles. Yet the capacity for sensation belongs also to the stalled ox. There is no wild beast, homosexual, Nero, or Phalaris, but obeys the twitchings of impulse. And even men who deny the gods, or betray their country, or perpetrate all manner of villainy behind locked doors, have minds to guide them to the clear path of duty. Seeing then that all else is the common heritage of such types, the good man's only singularity lies in his approving welcome to every experience the looms of fate may weave for him, his refusal to soil the divinity seated in his breast or perturb it with disorderly impressions, and his resolve to keep it in serenity and decorous obedience to God, admitting no disloyalty to truth in his speech or to justice in his actions. Though all the world mistrust him because he lives in simple, self-respecting happiness, he takes offense at none, but unswervingly treads the road onward to life's close, where duty bids him arrive in purity and peace, unreluctant to depart, in perfect and unforced unison with fate's apportionment.